kind of finally in the news for this week, we have a little smorgasbord, kind of potpourri of a bunch of different little stories, little bits of information on potential upcoming products from Apple. We have a reported leaked schematic and CAD render from MySmartPrice, supposedly showing some of the planned updates for a new 10.2-inch entry-level iPad. Things to note about this is that the shape mostly remains the same, and it still appears to have a home button and presumably Touch ID. It does adopt the new flat edge design of the more modern iPads and appears to be slightly thinner, but the most significant change, besides the USB-C connector, which will replace the Lightning, and I think this is the last model that still has a Lightning connector, last model of iPad at least, is that it's going to have a rear camera bump, something that version of the iPad has not had. Still a single lens, although it is that kind of oblong pill shape. There is a second hole under the camera, and the report seemed to allude to that it could be a True Tone flash, but the hole, if you actually really look at the CAD rendering, is pretty tiny. So most reports kind of think that's likely just a mic hole. So the camera bump probably there because they're trying to make it thinner, and I would assume the camera components just don't fit in that thin of a casing. We could also probably see some of the more recent camera improvements, which I think also require a slightly larger camera sensor. So makes sense. Oh, and I guess the last final thing is that it does look like Apple will be finally removing the headphone jack from that entry-level iPad. And just a reminder, some of the previous rumors we've been hearing about this one, slightly larger display, A14 Bionic, and Apple bringing 5G support to the entry-level iPad. So that's probably going to come out along with the iPad announcements in or around October, so expect that there. There's also a report out of Macatakara that Apple is planning a new 4-pin connector for the next iPad Pro models, though surprisingly, or maybe not surprisingly, they don't have any information about exactly what it would be used for. They just claim that there's going to be this new 4-pin connector on the top and bottom side edges. Speculation is it would be for additional peripherals, maybe third-party peripherals. I would assume some kind of new smart keyboard, although I don't know why extra connector. Outside of the connector, they also say the iPad will have, and this is the iPad Pro again, will have the same housing design and chassis design as the existing iPad Pro lineup. Again, we're expecting new M2 processors to, replace the M1s in the current versions of the iPad Pro. So those are coming, again, probably in October. And then Bloomberg's Mark Gurman continues to contend that Apple is planning a new HomePod that will be closer to the original. We've talked about this a little bit. In addition to being bigger and having more speakers, it's expected that it would have an S8 processor, same processor that's in the Apple Watch Series 8, and would support the new Matter technology, which is the new open smart device communication technology being adopted by Apple and Amazon and Google. So all of your smart home devices are going to connect. It's based on a lot of the technology Apple developed for HomeKit. They're all in alliance together, so this is ultimately a good thing, more interoperability amongst our smart home devices, more security, all of those things. So looking forward to that. The addition this time around is Gurman is also predicting that there's going to be an update to the HomePod Mini, but none of these updates are expected before 2023. And then Gurman is also chiming in on an upcoming new Mac Mini Pro update. Now, originally, you might remember that he believed that Apple was planning an M1 Mac Mini Pro, basically the Mac Mini M1 with an M1 Pro processor in it. He says that idea has been scrapped by Apple and that they're going to be moving forward with M2 updates for the Mini, including an update with an M2 Pro processor. Again, expect that likely in 2023, although I guess there's an outside chance we could hear about that in the fall as well, but I'm going to say more likely 2023. And then we have Ming-Chi Kuo, who continues to think that Apple could announce their mixed reality headset in early 2023, and he says maybe as early as January. He says it will be Apple's next, quote, revolutionary consumer electronics product after the iPhone. So he's kind of bullish on it. He thinks it's going to be pretty amazing. We've already heard that the first version is going to be expensive, and Kuo believes that Apple will price the first generation of the device somewhere between $2,000 and $2,500. Because of that, he also thinks that Apple will not sell likely more than about 1.5 million units in 2023. But remember, we are expecting Apple to iterate on this design pretty quickly. This first one likely to get out there in the hands of early adopters and developers, see what they do with it, see what directions they take it in, and then, as Apple does with a lot of their products, they'll adapt design, they'll adapt functionality to kind of meet what consumers are looking for. Kuo is predicting that in 2023, Apple will also switch the connector on all AirPods and their charging cases to USB-C. Wow, surprise. We're moving to USB-C, I think, across the board. The iPhone's probably going to be the last place we see that, but I would expect that to be coming in the next year or two as well.